a documentary on a subject that I've referred to a couple of times before and warned God's people about. Because you have to understand the kind of deception that's out there in the world today. These things come in different forms. They're disguised in different ways. And it's all about getting your attention in the direction of Satan's agenda. So before we go into today's discussion on the blessing of Abraham, look, when I was just meditating on the scriptures, I was hoping, I said, oh Lord, can I really sit down today? Because even there, going through those scriptures, I was exploding inside. I thought, hope I'll be able to sit down. So I'm really going to try my best to be gentlemanly sitting down here. Just it's so much. It's so much. So much. God's word is so much. So we'll get into that shortly. Now let's watch this untold truth about yoga and massages. Those of you that love to get massages, watch this.
I was practicing yoga. I was under the guidance of a spiritual guru. I was doing Ayurveda. I was completely in this mystical world, but still claiming Christianity. And God said no.
I was a certified yoga instructor with hundreds of hours of training. And it was my passion. My passion was healing. My passion was helping people heal. And little did I know I was deceived, and not until I was saved by Jesus Christ.
Our world has been deceived for so long, for many years. This is the reason you find that the people who are trying to get cured of a certain condition, but the treatment perpetuates the condition, and they don't know it.
Throughout history, the world has been misled through various strategies and practices in the pursuit of good health and a better livelihood. Among these is yoga, a widely recommended exercise. However, many unknowingly
Yoked with the universal consciousness. It's all about merging your soul with the universal consciousness.
Yoga is a Hindu ritual. The word yoga means to marry, to connect, to unite, to combine, to become one with. That's what yoga means, to yoke with. And also basically yoga is sun worship.
It is actually a spiritual trap to lure people into worshipping false gods. And the word yoga means to be yoked with, to be united with. And here's where the deception comes in. Some will say it will bring you closer to God. Demonic spirits.
Absolutely. You know, these are subliminal messages. So they've got to go through a certain religious inclination to give us some exercise. Here's where you have to be wise as a child of God. You know, some of these things look harmless, but just so you know how these things play out. So they hijack the exercises, call them yoga, And yoga has a connotation to a certain religious background.
Well, first of all, this is idolatry, because those religions. So who are they actually worshiping? They're worshiping demons. This is the biggest sin of the Old Testament, and I would say of the New Testament. When did God get really fired up at his people? When they worship false gods.
You can't separate yoga and Hinduism.
You can't separate, yeah.
So which means then that whether they intend to or otherwise, you've got Christians practicing Eastern mysticism,
Yeah.
what we would call Hindu worship. They may say what they want,
Yeah.
but ultimately that's what they're participating in.
Now, most people going to yoga studios doing yoga have no idea about this, nor do they have any really desire to do that. They're mostly there for physical exercise, for, mental health, and something beneficial to their life to just stay healthy and stay flexible, which are all great things. But the thing is, you are pursuing that under a greater covering, under a greater mission of yoga, which is completely anti-biblical, completely anti-Christian, and will actually end up in extreme demonization.
They don't tell you that. So they say, oh, it's normal, it's just exercise. Why did you give it that particular name?
Yoga has become very popular, and the world has done a great job of marketing it as an exercise. Research shows that tens of thousands of people around the world, including Christians, now practice the exercise. There is nothing wrong with physical exercise, but these positions are teaching postures with a spiritual purpose.
The true religion of yoga is much more than just stretching.
So when you're doing these poses, those particular poses, and they're not ordinary poses, they're very odd and distinct. That's like sending up a bat signal to get Batman to come visit you, except it's going to be a demon that's associated with that pose. When they make those poses, they're invoking that particular demon that goes with that pose.
That's what the poses were curated for. They were curated to honor false gods, and not only honor false gods, but invite and to yoke with false gods.
Poses and sequences to worship the sun, to worship specific gods like Shakti and Shiva and Ganesha. And
So yoga stretches are not just regular stretches. The stretch in yoga, each stretch has a meaning to it. So for example, there's a pose called warrior pose, warrior 1, 2, and 3. Okay. So in the warrior pose, the person stretches in certain angles. What they're doing is basically they are doing the act of beheading, which happens in Hindu mythology. That's one example.
Okay.
So the stretches have meaning, and the stretches have to be done in a certain sequence. You can't change the sequence. They have to be done in a certain sequential order in order to play out the Hindu story or the Hindu mythology. So yoga stretching is a Hindu ritual. It is a physical expression of worship. You can never separate yoga from Hinduism. It's not possible.
The roots of yoga are intrinsically pagan. You can't go to a yoga class without having Hindu gods and goddesses all over the walls, without seeing a tarot deck in the corner, without a crystal here, a salt lamp there. Like it's riddled. It's like a demon cave every time you go into a yoga studio.
Yoga is widely practiced for relaxation, stress relief, and physical exercise. However, many, including Christians, adopt it without considering its origins.
That's where you start. You start with the beginning. Read the history of it. Who were they? What were they like? What were their pursuits? What were their motivations? Then you would know. That'll be easy for you to project that direction, where they're going, what they want to do. From the very beginning, it was a fraud.
Yoga's roots trace back thousands of years in ancient India. Originally, it was a spiritual practice focused on meditation.
It is not known when the tradition of yoga came into existence, but on the basis of Sankhya philosophy, Patanjali compiled the sutras with precise classifications, sequences, and logic. Ancient Indians had applied a unique technique for seeking knowledge. Here, the experimentation, testing, and observation were not performed externally, but inside the human body and mind. The process of concentrating the Chitta consciousness is yoga. Therefore, yoga in India left its mark on many philosophies, arts, and sciences.
According to Hindu philosophy, the source of yoga is Shiva, but the main guru or the founder also, some people say father, some people say, is the serpent. And the serpent, according to Hindu teachings, mythology, serpent took the form of a human being. And he wrote 195 aphorisms, means wise sayings. So all of yoga will fit into that 195 wise sayings that supposedly this wise serpent wrote. And that is the foundation of all yoga practice. So if I'm a Christian and I'm reciting, let's say, Psalm 23 or Psalm 91, and I keep doing yoga stretches, then the stretches, I'm attributing it to serpent and the source Shiva.
So it's got to have some root from somewhere. Then the next thing you know is you are having to say some words that you don't even know the meaning. You have to recite those words. Now you're talking to demons and you don't know.
And there's a lot of people right now being demonized, doing Christian yoga, having yoga at the church. And I had a pastor one time like, why are you talking about yoga? We have yoga at the church. And I'm like, dude, if you're having yoga classes at your church, you need to shut down your church. You are literally opening up a demonic portal, a demonic realm.
So in our world today, we have to pray. See, I've told you what Satan does is he takes the good intentions of men and he forms evil things out of them, takes advantage of them and lures them into evil. And Jesus called Satan a murderer.
Doctors now recommend yoga to their patients, and the United Nations has even introduced it to children in schools and colleges. On social media, over 60 million daily posts are related to yoga. In 2024, over 41 million yoga studio businesses existed in the United States, according to market research.
Well, yoga promises the ability to be able to penetrate the spiritual worlds and to experience them. And so that was the attractiveness of it to me.
Yeah.
I wanted to know who I was, why I was alive, and most importantly, what the future held for me.
You know, I want to have some level of peace of mind, you know, if work is so busy, things are so stressful. Because that's what yoga is being marketed as, sort of a health supplement to your lifestyle, you know? Sort of a healing, you know, modality to help you be more productive, to help you have better peace of mind, have better joy and happiness in life. You should not be seeking those things from yoga. You should seek them from Jesus Christ.
Meanwhile, many unsuspecting Christians have fallen prey to this deception, experiencing not only physical decline, but also mental health disturbances.
No one ever told me that I was participating in mysticism. I never got that option to say, yes, I'm in, or no, I'm good.
Right. And there were many times on that yoga mat where I was shaking with euphoria, or I was sobbing, like, you know, and now I know I was manifesting, like I'm sobbing on the yoga mat, and I'm like, oh, I'm releasing, this is my release. But nothing was actually being released, it was just a demon manifesting.
This is me at the Monkey Temple after the priest took me into a back room and blessed me. One of the Yoga Nidra classes is one of the meditations, and she's using a tuning fork on my forehead to open up my third eye.
Why do you pay someone to kill you? You know? You pay them to do all this stuff to you. It's amazing how we believe some stuff.
I literally had to stop and look at everything and dig deep, because everything that I thought was bringing me peace had led me to just severe anxiety, no sense of peace, dysregulated, I wouldn't say deities, but I would say demons in my home, apparitions, spiritual harassment, spiritual attacks, involuntary kundalini. I ended up in the ER. One attack dropped me down, and whatever spirit was banging my head on the floor, like for what felt like 2 minutes. And I could hear my husband saying, "What's wrong? What happened?" Screaming. But I could hear.
Are you actually hitting your head on the floor?
I could hear